Try? You have to.
We are, I'm with my good friend Oren Bloostein here at Oren's Daily Roast, and we just had a new store opening and want to catch up a little bit on everything that's going on coffee-wise, and really due to the publicity about different varietals, I get a chance to try your coffees, and in fact they're the same green beans done by several different roasters now, which is fantastic. It's kind of like being able to compare different film versions of a famous story. You know, you get to, I get to see one person's take on another, and oftentimes I find yours is far way better.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. I mean, besides the actual bean selection, which if somebody's buying the identical coffee, we use a type of roaster which is not a usual roaster. It's a got hot roaster, and it's sort of a hybrid. I call it a hybrid. It's a stationary drum roaster with paddles to agitate the beans and a lot of hot air, a way oversized burner, so that we can roast the coffee as fast or as slow as we want. Typically in a drum roaster, I kind of think of it, the drum roaster is sort of a steamship, and you know, it'll go where you want it to go, but it'll take a while to turn. And we're sort of more like a speedboat. We could turn on a dime in the roaster, so we can do things to develop the coffee and stop the roast and start the roast that I think is a little more difficult in a drum roaster. And I got this roaster totally by accident. I mean, I was looking for a roaster that initially that was small enough to put in the back of the store and safe. I looked at some other roasters, and I thought perhaps this wouldn't be a good thing to put in the back of a residential building. I could see the headlines now. And this machine was really, it's totally over-engineered, and it was originally a 7-pound batch roaster, and we ended up getting the larger cousin, which is what we're using now. So it's definitely a different kind of a roaster, and there are very few of them in the world, and only a couple in the States. And I'll be willing to bet we're the only people that use it this way, roast on it this way, use this profile on this roaster, because it certainly wasn't made to roast this way. We just did a lot of experimentation to get it to roast and taste the way you described.
Do you pretty much use the same profile on all of your single origins?
Very similar. The roast profile, I would say, in terms of, you know, the way it roasts, yes, but the temperature that we bring it to in order to get it to the end point varies. So there is a range of temperatures we use to obtain a similar profile, although not identical, to the coffee. So, you know, the Sumatra will bring up to a little higher temperature, although the color of the coffee should be about the same, maybe very slightly darker than, say, a Colombian, which we roast a little bit lighter, or a little bit lighter in temperature. So there are subtle variations. I mean, the basic curve of the roast, from the temperature at the drop of the green into the roast chamber to the time that we end the roast, is a very similar parabola, but we have to do things a little differently with each varietal to get it there. If that explains what...
Yeah, I think so. Is there's so much of an effort, for instance, a Colombian coffee used to have a flavor. Let me open this up a little bit. When you buy a coffee from a country, it seems like, and even the way, whether it's my book or anybody's book is set up, we talk about like the Colombian flavor profile versus Nicaraguan. Now last year I had a Nicaraguan from you I thought tasted a lot different than any other Nicaraguan I've had.
All right, I think that was a Cup of Excellence coffee, and that was a varietal that was originally an Ethiopian coffee, and it was planted on a patch of on a farm that had been split up, so it was owned by two sisters, and so they had to do it together to make just a few bags of this coffee. And when I actually, what I did was I wasn't at the Cup of Excellence cupping all these coffees, but as a I participate, so I get all of the Cup of Excellence samples that are going to go to auction. And when I read the descriptions of all the coffees, because I generally don't do all 25 or 30 coffees, I'll pick some that are from areas that I like. But I actually read about this coffee. I knew this was a coffee that I needed to try, and it kept almost exactly like what you would expect a perfect Yirgacheffe to taste like. It was lemony, it was light, it was lighter in body than a typical Nicaragua. I mean, I am not particularly good at identifying coffee by country on the table in a blind cupping. I can tell you what it tastes like, but I can't tell you where it comes from necessarily. And but if somebody put this in front of me, I would have said this is an Ethiopian from the Yirgacheffe area, because that's exactly what it tasted like. And it's funny that, but that particular stand of trees in that particular area that they were able to keep separate had that that different characteristic. So you can talk about a country's, profile in general, but basically I think it all comes down to, those particular trees, how they're prepared, how they're grown, how it's processed, how it's picked. You can get great coffee from well, you can get great coffee from a lot of places, but you can also make that same coffee awful. That's easy to do. It's difficult to make it really great. So it really takes a lot of extra work. And doing something like separating the coffee from a small stand of trees, that's a lot of extra work.